Hi, everyone. Um, because I was absent last week for one day, I'm trying to catch up a little bit. So I'm going to be recording part of a lecture on some topics I wanted to cover. And my hope is that you will watch this video and then I will have you do an assignment and hopefully we can catch up a little bit. So we had talked on Wednesday about statements and the fact that statements and judgments, such as these examples right here, this is nice weather, or I have a fever of 102, can be divided up into objective statements or judgments and subjective. And we did a lot of work on that. You did quizzes and a Kahoot and a group quiz. Um, so hopefully those concepts are pretty clear in your mind. Here are some examples of objective judgments or facts, like I have a fever of 102, or there are 8 planets in the solar system. Subjective judgments or opinions, things like this is nice weather, it's not nice to talk on your cell phone in a restaurant. So these are some examples. Another way to think about objective and subjective statements is to also think of them as non-value judgments and value judgments. So you can see that here, and I said we would talk about that later. The idea is that when you're making an objective statement, in the statement itself, you're not attributing any value, any like normative value, meaning you're not talking about whether something is nice or not, whether it's valuable or not, whether it's beautiful or not, moral or not. I mean, all of these things are values. You're just stating objective facts. Subjective statements, however, typically include within them some sort of value judgment. So you're saying something about how praiseworthy something is, how nice something is. Um, it could be ethical, whether it's moral or not moral, whether it's beautiful or ugly. All of these things are versions of different value judgments. So when you say this is nice weather, for example, you're not just describing the weather as with the temperature and with the humidity. You're saying it's nice. You're attributing some value to it. When you say it's not nice to talk on the cell phone in a restaurant, you're not just saying that the rules in this restaurant are that you cannot talk on the cell phone. You're saying it's not nice. You're saying something about whether or not what the person is doing is good or not. So, subjective statements or opinions typically have within them value judgments. Value judgments can also be split up into two different kinds: non moral value judgments. A non moral value judgment means that you're making a value judgment, but you're not saying something about how moral or ethical something is. So, you're saying it's nice weather or that's a beautiful painting. You're not saying that there's something wrong with the weather, something immoral about the weather. That wouldn't even make sense to talk about. And even if you say that's a beautiful painting, you're not saying something about the morality of that painting, whether it's wrong or right. You're just saying that it's beautiful. So again, it's a value, but it's not a moral value. There are other types of value judgments that are moral value judgments. And this has something to do with whether you're saying something is ethical, moral, or not. And when we talk about, I'm assuming a lot of you have a basic understanding of what it means when we talk about morals or ethics, what that means. You're talking about right or wrong, whether you should or should not do something. Um, and so examples of moral value judgments are it's not nice to talk on your cell phone in a restaurant. So there you're saying that if somebody does that, they're doing something that's wrong, that's morally wrong, or something like the death penalty is wrong. These are moral value judgments. So just to summarize, and we can go over this again in class if needed, but judgments can be split up into into either objective or subjective judgments. And then when you talk about subjective judgments, all of those typically have some sort of value associated with them. Sometimes those values are non-moral in nature. So by saying something is nice or not, beautiful, um, whether it's, comfortable or uncomfortable, all of those things are value judgments. But then there are some other types of value judgments that have to do with morality, whether it's nice, meaning whether it's wrong or right, whether it's moral or immoral. So, what I'm going to have you do is take a quiz to test your ability to distinguish between moral and non moral value judgments. It's a simple quiz. You get multiple opportunities to take it. And so, if you get a question wrong, the next time you take it, you know to switch your answer. And I'm hoping that by listening to this, watching this video, and by taking that quiz when we come back to class in about a week on Wednesday, you'll have some familiarity with these terms and we can move on to other topics. All right. Thank you.